In today's video, I'm going to be giving you guys my expectations for the Vegas Golden Knights heading into next season. Coming in as an expansion team in the 2017 season, many people expected Vegas to finish at the bottom of the league, but it was quite the opposite. As many of you guys know, they won their division, made it to the Stanley Cup Finals in what was really just a Cinderella run that I don't think we're ever going to see again if there's another expansion draft, if Seattle does come into the league. I think general managers are going to be much safer with what they do at the expansion draft because Vegas just cleaned house and they really did steal a lot of fantastic players. They finished with a record of 51-24-7 for 109 points. Their leading point scorer was William Karlsson with 78 points and he scored 43 goals. His career high in goals before that was 9 goals. That just tells you and pretty sums up the season of the Vegas Golden Knights. They made few mistakes. Probably the only mistake George McPhee made was the Tatar deal and the Vadim Shipachev move, but obviously that didn't really affect the team that much because they made it to the Stanley Cup Finals, obviously falling short to the Washington Capitals, but it still was an amazing season, and I think the future still is bright for Vegas, and we're going to see them as a pretty tough team next year as well. It was a pretty interesting offseason for the Vegas Golden Knights. They lost some players, but they also did bring some good players back. They lost James Neal to free agency, and they lost David Perron, but they signed Paul Stastny. I know I spelled his name wrong there. That's my apologies. They also signed Daniel Carr from the Montreal Canadiens, and I don't hear many people talking about that signing, but he played pretty well for the Montreal Canadiens from what I've seen, and you know how things work when people go to Vegas. He'll probably be a 150-point scorer next year because that's just how things work. But all in all, they did, in my opinion, get a little worse, and that's not trying to sugarcoat anything. I'm just being honest, and it's just my opinion. They did lose depth with David Perron and James Neal leaving the team, but I'm not sure if it really is going to affect the team because they have good young players coming up, and their prospects could be ready to play next year, so it will be very interesting to see. If the prospects don't come up and they have the same look as last year, I do think they took a little bit of a hit, but signing Paul Stastny really was huge, and obviously guys like Cody Glass and Nick Suzuki coming up in the coming years, they are really going to be able to fill some holes that the Golden Knights have, so it was a decent offseason for the Golden Knights, I'll say. Now taking a look at my lineup predictions for the Vegas Golden Knights next season, and remember to take this with a grain of salt. I'm not the head coach of the team. These aren't going to be the exact lines. This is kind of just looking at the depth chart and throwing together some quick lines that I think it could look like potentially on opening night. So first line I think is pretty much solidified with Marchessault, Karlsson, and Riley Smith. Marchessault I could see leading the team in points next year. I don't see William Karlsson being a 40-goal scorer next year. That's just me being real and honest. I'm not hating. I just really don't see it. I think he will be a 30-goal scorer, but I'm not sure if he'll break 40 goals again. And hopefully Riley Smith can stay healthy the whole year because I think he can put up a lot of points and really just help the Vegas Golden Knights all around. So that top line is going to be very good next year. Again, I think so. And then second line, you have Thomas Tatar, Paul Stastny, and Alex Tuch. I'm a fan of this second line if this is how it looks. Alex Tuch, I think, is going to have a breakout season next year. He had a really good rookie year. I'm a big fan of Alex Tuch. He's a big guy with good hands, good scoring touch, and a pretty good shot as well, and you need that in your top six, so I really do like Alex Tuch. Obviously, your offseason signing, Paul Stastny, I definitely think he's going to fit in perfectly as that second line center. Hopefully, he can stay healthy the whole season. And then Thomas Tatar, and you guys may be thinking there's no way Thomas Tatar will be in the top six. He was scratched throughout the majority of the playoffs last year, but I definitely think he's going to bounce back in a big way. You can't just expect a guy to come in after a trade and be a perfect fit immediately, but I think with the summer with the Vegas Golden Knights, a full training camp, a preseason, I think Tatar will be good in that top six, and I hope he can get back to scoring 20 goals like I knew he was capable of doing with the Detroit Red Wings. And the bottom six is kind of where the depth took a hit if guys like Suzuki and Cody Glass don't come up. You have Oscar Lindberg, Erik Haula, and Ryan Carpenter. Now, Haula and Carpenter, Haula's a really good third liner. You could argue he should be a second liner, and Carpenter played really well after being signed or claimed off waivers by the Vegas Golden Knights. So Haula and Carpenter I like there, but I'm not sure about Oscar Lindberg. And then the fourth line, Nosek, Eakin, and Reeves, a really good shutdown line. And then I have scratched Bellemare and Carr because Bellemare is a center. That's where he plays best. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens with him. You could move Haula to the wing, put Bellemare on that third line center position, and bring Oscar Lindberg out of the lineup. Whatever you want to do there. And I think Daniel Carr is going to get a chance to make this team as well. But I can't really fathom bringing Ryan Reeves out of the lineup because of how much they're paying him. And I don't think you're going to pay a guy who gets scratched that much. But I definitely think Daniel Carr is going to see a bunch of games. Bellemare is most likely going to be in the lineup. I just didn't really know where to fit him in. Probably in the third line center and then move Haula to the wing. It'll be interesting to see how the Vegas Golden Knights work the lineup, but I do like the look of this offensive core. Not as much as I did last year, but I definitely think it still is a playoff team and a team that can make a deep run once again. So all in all, I do pretty much like the offensive core of the Vegas Golden Knights. It looks pretty good right now. Now taking a look at the defense core for Vegas, you have Braden McNabb and Nate Schmidt on that top line, but I definitely think about halfway through the season, I think we'll see Shea Theodore on that top line. I'm a huge fan of Theodore, and I think he's going to be their number one defenseman in the coming years. But to start the season, I think he'll be on that second pairing, but I think he'll get all the chance in the world to make the jump and be on that top defensive pairing. And Theodore and Schmidt, I do like that a lot. And then obviously, yeah, Theodore and Englund, that's a pretty good top four. You could bring Englund down to the third pairing and move Colin Miller up to the second pairing if you want. And then you have Holden and Miller, and you also have Merrill, who can probably come in for Holden here and there. And you also have Brandstrom. It's going to be interesting to see if he'll get any opportunity to make this lineup. But all in all, you don't really have that superstar in your top six defense core, but it's depth. You have depth, and if they can somehow trade for Erik Karlsson this offseason, I think it's less likely day and day that passes that he will get traded. But if you are able to bring in a top defenseman, this team is going to be scary. And then obviously in goal, they just re-signed Marc-Andre Fleury, and they also have Malcolm Subban, who played pretty well when Marc-Andre Fleury went down with injury. But if Fleury can stay healthy for a full season and put up the numbers he did last year, I think he'll be a Vezina Trophy candidate, and I definitely think that'll be huge for the Vegas Golden Knights. So their defense core and goaltending relatively looks the same as last year, and with Theodore getting better, I think that defense core is still going to be pretty good next season. Now taking a look at my player stats predictions for the Vegas Golden Knights, and remember to take this with a grain of salt. All of these players I know aren't going to play in all 82 games. You're going to have your injuries and stuff like that, but this is kind of just my speculation on their points per 82 games, and that's kind of what I'm basing it off of, if you will. So take this with a grain of salt. This isn't what's going to happen. This is kind of just what I think their point total could be around if they stay healthy the whole year. So leading the team, I have Marchessault, 31 goals, 48 assists for 79 points. I think he really is capable of putting up 80 points in a season. I think he will be their leading scorer next season. Then I have William Karlsson, 32 goals, 39 assists for 71 points, and I don't see him scoring 43 goals once again. And I know you guys are all going to be like, oh, he's going to have more than 32 goals, but I could see him maybe pushing 35, but I just think everything was going good for Vegas, and I don't see that exactly happening next year with him scoring 40 plus goals. If that first line gels like it did last year, maybe I could see him up there around 38 to 40, but I definitely don't see it. I think he will take a little bit of a step back because I think that was a career year for William Karlsson, but I definitely think he's still going to be really productive on that first line. Then I have Riley Smith, 21 goals, 47 assists for 68 points, so that first line still putting up some really good offensive totals. Then I have their offseason big acquisition, Paul Stastny, 19 goals, 46 assists for 65 points. And from your second line center, 65 points is what I think the Vegas Golden Knights are kind of looking for, and I think that would be pretty good value for what they got him for. 65 points from Paul Stastny on that second line I think would be pretty good for Vegas. Then I have Erik Haula, who I have playing on the third line, but I think he still will get power play minutes, and he probably even could play on the second line on the wing. It depends on what they want to do with their lineup. I have him scoring 22 goals and adding 38 assists for 60 points, and from a third line guy, that is some pretty good numbers, but obviously it's going to be interesting to see where he does play. That's just where I have him playing. And then Alex Tuch, 24 goals, 29 assists for 53 points, in which I think this would be a really good step in the right direction season by Alex Tuch. And then under this, I probably have guys like Shea Theodore. I could see him pushing 40 points as a defenseman. Then obviously, I think Thomas Tatar could be up there around 50 if he does gel with this team and find his own. So all in all, I think it's going to be another deep scoring team where you're going to get a lot of contribution from your top three lines. So that's kind of what I think the point totals are going to look like for Vegas next season. Now finally giving you guys my final expectations for the Vegas Golden Knights next season. I have them taking a little bit of a step back with a record of 48, 26, and 8 for third in the Pacific Division. I think the Pacific is going to be very competitive next season. I think we could see Edmonton pushing and fighting, and we're going to see Los Angeles, who's getting better. Anaheim is still going to be a powerhouse team. So I don't think Vegas is going to be in the top position. I think San Jose might be my favorite right now to win the Pacific Division. Have the leading point scorer with Jonathan Marchessault with 79. You guys seen that in the player stats predictions. Karlsson with 32 goals, but it won't be a bad year. I just think it was I don't think we're going to see a season last year ever again. I don't know. I think I have to have them taking a step back. I don't think they can get better than they did last year. Still going to be a really good team, but I just see them finishing third in the Pacific, but definitely could be fighting for the top 2 positions as well. This is kind of just where I see them finishing when the season is all said and done. So I still think they're going to have a good year. They still have the potential to make a deep playoff run. Just I think they're going to take a little bit of a step back, but still be a really good team in the Western Conference. So that is going to wrap up the video. I really hope you guys did enjoy. Make sure to let me know down in the comment section, what are your expectations for the Vegas Golden Knights next season? Do you think they can have a repeat of last year and make another push at the Stanley Cup? It's going to be very exciting to watch. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Drop a like on it if you want to see more videos like this. Subscribe to the channel for daily NHL content, and I'll see you guys all in the next video.